We got breaking news out of Washington on the U.S. China trade negotiation front. For more, I want to get to Jessica Smith live in Washington, D.C. with the updates. Jess?
Well, Bloomberg is reporting that negotiators have reached a partial agreement that would lay the groundwork for a broader trade deal between the U.S. and China. This is along the lines of what we expected going into this, just a partial agreement to kind of ease tensions as negotiations continue. Bloomberg reports that this agreement includes agricultural concessions from China and tariff relief from the U.S. You'll remember tariffs are set to go up on October 15th. Now, the president is supposed to meet with the Chinese vice premier in just about an hour, and Bloomberg notes this partial agreement could change based on how that meeting goes. But the word for right now is Bloomberg reports a partial agreement. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more throughout the day.
All right, Jessica Smith from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much. Guys, I mean, when we're talking about partial agreement there, we're seeing the market reaction right now, not necessarily anything higher than what we saw before. So you would have thought any news of a partial trade deal would have made the markets react, but nothing yet.
Maybe they're waiting for after the meeting with the vice premier and President Trump to see where that goes. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just partial. We still don't have the actual fundamental issues addressed from the IP theft, from the forced transfer of technology, those sorts of things. They haven't been ironed out at this point.
Would agricultural concessions and the tariff front on the U.S. be enough in your mind to warrant a larger reaction than what 20 points we're seeing?
For me, this is actually more about an IP and a tech play. Our markets are totally available to the Chinese and everyone else around the world, but the Chinese market is not available to the rest of the world, including the U.S. We have to win on that front, and this trade deal, for me to be extremely bullish on it. Now, I think what you're going to see come out after the meeting is some form of spin on some form of win and some concessions. But we're seeing right now up 420 points. At 11, earlier this morning we were up 499 points, right? So the market not really reacting right now. And I think to Julia's point, I think folks are going to wait and they're going to see what comes out after, 2:45 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the key language here, of course. We're reading the Bloomberg report here, some tariff relief. The question there being, what does that actually mean when it comes to the October 15 tariffs or the December 15 tariffs? If it were both, if that comes out after President Trump meets with Xi Jinping, that would seem to warrant a much larger reaction than what we're seeing right now. Again, just kind of a swing of about 50 points off of this news.
Yep. Yeah, and I think, again, this also goes back to just how much traders, investors are focused on trade and how much that matters to where the market moves. It's not about these other factors. I mean, we're getting to earnings season, and that doesn't seem to matter. It's really just trade that's in focus. And yeah, right now you're not seeing the huge reaction because we haven't seen the actual deal concessions come to fruition at this point.
Mm-hmm. You could also, this is speculation, I want to point that out, but you could also leak something like this prior to the meeting for Trump and the administration to see if the markets do react. They're not reacting, which potentially gives the administration leverage at the 2:45 meeting to potentially walk away, right? Because the positive news that was bluffed before the meeting is not moving the markets, right? So I guarantee there's got to be they wouldn't let that kind of news go out to Bloomberg, right? If they didn't want it to before the meeting. So I'm sure there's some testing of the waters happening here.
That's a good point. And it's also a Friday afternoon.
They had been hinting ahead of this meeting. Again, remember, the President Trump was hinting at positive developments. This obviously would be, again, we don't have many developments to share.
Positive. It could just be that it was already baked in, and that's just the move you're going to get.
Or that, yes, of course, what you're suggesting would be moving 5 steps ahead to say, okay, let's see what this looks like.
Zach. I'm a chess player.
Well, but we know that the president is as well. He continues to talk about how he can negotiate well here. But to me, I think the reason why we may not be seeing that immediate market reaction is because so little has been known about what positive developments we're talking about here and what exactly tariff relief necessarily means. Again, when it comes
what would you want to see? What would you want to see come out after 2:45 for you to see your prediction on what would actually move the markets up?
I think if you're an investor trying to make sense of what you're seeing coming out of the White House when it comes to those tariffs, it would have to be what we saw before in the way that the market reacted when we had those big up days in response to the tariff news. Was suspending tariffs.
Got it.
I would think is what you'd need to see. That not being what's reported right now when we talk about the trade developments that we're bringing to you right now. Again, Bloomberg just reporting that there is some tariff relief being the language around that right now. But to your point, Julia, just because we're getting this right now, we've seen President Trump, even within a day, hours really, reverse his thinking when it comes to these negotiations. We've heard things going well, only to have things fall apart in the later day.
For now, it's just a positive baby step. That's all I'll say.
Well said.
Baby step.
There it is.
Positive baby step is a better headline than potential trade truce or partial deal. I like positive baby step for now. All right, Nathan Lacka, thank you so much for being here for the full hour. Julia Roche, thank you as well.